I'd like to call the regular council meeting for the town of Grand Bay-Westfield on Monday, January 9th, 2023 to order at 7 o'clock p.m. We respectfully acknowledge that Grand Bay-Westfield exists on the traditional Woolstookway land. The lands of Wabanaki people are recognized in a series of peace and friendship treaties to establish an ongoing relationship of peace, friendship, and mutual respect between equal nations. The river that runs by our town is known as Woolstook, along which live Woolstookway, the people of the beautiful and bountiful river. We, the staff and elected representatives, pay respect to the elders, past and present, and descendants of this land. Well, Happy New Year. Happy 2023, everybody. It's always exciting to be here, but today especially so. It's not just a new year, it's a new town. We are officially the new town of Grand Bay-Westfield as of January 1st, 2023. And I know we welcomed Councillor Burpee here before, but we're actually welcoming Councillor Burpee as a fully active voting member of council. So welcome to everybody and welcome to the councillor. We're very pleased that you are here. I would just want to take a moment also and acknowledge that it's Alzheimer's Awareness Month. You can see all of council wearing blue flowers in awareness of that. And while Alzheimer's awareness may stop at the end of January, the experiences of the people who live with dementia do not. And so the association is asking that everybody learn a little bit about Alzheimer's during the month and take that with you through the rest of the year. When we're in the municipal sector and we're doing the work of the people, and in fact in any sector there are always mentors that guide us along the way, and our CAO John Inswin has had such a mentor who has recently been lost, and I would like to turn the floor over to John Inswin now to speak.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was very fortunate when I was first elected mayor over 10 years ago. The executive director of SUMA, the Saskatchewan Urban Municipal Association, was incredibly helpful. Laurent Bougeot had a huge heart, and when I went to him with my issues of council, he provided significant advice, and Laurent grew to become a friend, a coach, and a mentor. He's one of these unsung heroes that walk through in every community and every industry in Canada, whose presence is much larger than the person. It was Laurent who encouraged me to become a CAO, and I think the success I've had as a CAO is due to his coaching and nurturing me, Your Worship. I could even phone him up and say, Laurent, how would you do this? And he'd say, yes, John, you're on the right track. Or, you may want to adjust how you do it. Laurent was significant, not just to me and others in Saskatchewan. After his retirement through FCM, he provided leadership to municipalities in the Ukraine. And in fact, it wasn't just him going there to see what he could share, but he learned something significant there, and he brought it back. And the first mayor's school in Saskatchewan was because he learned about mayor's school that they were hosting in the Ukraine, which was great. He also did municipal work in Africa, Jordan, which he shared with me quite a bit, and some of that he did virtual, and then of course across Canada. And the council's been very supportive of my efforts to have insurance done a little bit differently in New Brunswick. Right now we're subject to companies and corporations. And one of the things that we had in Saskatchewan that Laurent pioneered, copying a model from elsewhere, was Municipal Reciprocal Insurance Corporation. And so Laurent has been helping me here in New Brunswick to be able to set something like that up. And in fact, he and I met with the minister and deputy minister virtually to be able to do that. And from there, we've been able to go a little bit further. But Your Worship and Council, Laurent's just one of these people, an unsung hero that really goes unseen, but is so much larger than life. And I just feel grateful for the influence on my life.
Thank you for sharing those reflections of your friend John. I'd like to call for a moment of silence now. Thank you for that moment, Council, in memoriam of the contributions that Laurent has given not just the municipal sector in general, but also to our CAO, John Smith, and the town as a result. Thank you. Item 4, record of attendance. Let the record reflect that we have a full roster of attendance with the exception of Councillor Day, who sends her regrets. Item 5, agenda approval. The motion is that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield approve the agenda of January 9th, 2023 with the deletion of item 11C as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Bellman. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you. Item 6, disclosure of conflict of interest. Are there any? There being none. Item 7, public hearings, presentations, delegations, petitions. There being none, we move on to item 8, minutes of previous meetings. 8A, regular council minutes of December 12th, 2022. The motion is that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield adopt the minutes of the regular meeting of December 12th, 2022 as presented. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Balcom. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you. 8B, email poll, Veterans Peace Park funding request. The motion is that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield ratify the email poll Peace Park funding request. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Bellman. John, can you speak to this motion, please?
Yes, Your Worship. Corey Ryan has been heading up a project to enhance the Cenotaph area. The Peace Park is what we're calling it now. And their fundraising fell a little bit short, so they've asked us to offset the taxes that they incur, and that'll bring them to a break-even point. And we just asked to start doing it last year so we can get some of last year's stuff and last year's with the surplus, the small surplus we had, mindful that we're in a really tight situation fiscally this year due to incorporating slow control into our work.
Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you. Item C, email poll, QP increase 2023. The motion is that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield ratify the email poll, QP increase 2023. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor Bailman. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. And again, John, would you mind speaking to the motion, please?
Yes, Your Worship. We concluded collective bargaining at the end of November, and we received notice of ratification after the last meeting. We'll be bringing the new collective agreement to council next time. In the meantime, everybody agreed to 4.5% for the 2023, and just asked council to endorse that so that when we came into 2021, we can incorporate that in the payroll right from the beginning of the year. So I just want to thank council for helping us out from the administrative perspective and for the first step of ratifying the agreement.
Thank you, John. Do we have any questions or comments on the motion? just congratulations on everyone on a successful completion of negotiations.
Thanks to this teamwork.
It is, it's very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you. Item 9, unfinished business. There being none, we'll move on to item 10, bylaws. And actually, John, if you could just give a little precursor about to why we're doing all the work on the bylaws at this point.
Oh,
before I get
Your
right into
Worship.
it.
Yeah, I have to dig up my report. I had it up and then I ran out of memory, computer memory, not physical memory. Anyways, Bill 16, which is an act respecting local governance reform, is one of a number of smaller acts that have been used to incorporate local governance reform. And in section 21.41, because we've annexed, or the province has enacted that we annex part of the former LSD of Westfield West, we have to pass all our bylaws so that each part of Grand Bay-Westfield operates under the same bylaws. So we have to go through all of our bylaws so that the whole community is under one piece of legislation per se, Your Worship. And so there's some big pieces, there'll be some big bylaws that'll be done, primarily the municipal plan and the zoning bylaw. And we expect to be in Ward 2 the end of January, the end of February, for an open house on the municipal plan and zoning bylaw. And then throughout the year, we'll be bringing bylaws to council according to priority. In the meantime, though, there are some cornerstone bylaws that really need to be passed ASAP, such as the council code of conduct. Technically, right now, the new councillor, the code of conduct doesn't apply to her, technically. The council procedural bylaw, we don't have a procedural bylaw right now. We're just going on what we've done in practice. Right now, technically, council, there is nothing regulating how council is being paid. CAO bylaw, I'm only CAO in one part of the town and not the other part of the town. The emergency management bylaw, we're very well looked after in one part of town but not the other. Same thing with the volunteer fire and rescue. So these are some cornerstone type of bylaws that really need to be approved. As we go forward, there will be some bylaws that we can do in one evening, Your Worship, and I think we have 2 pieces of bylaw next time. So I think next time we'll be doing 8 bylaws with 3 readings. But also there's some other bylaws, Your Worship, that we'll bring for 1 reading. We'll hold an open house. We'll bring a 2nd reading and then a 3rd reading. So we will want community feedback on some bylaws as we move forward. But fundamentally what it is that our bylaws do not apply to the areas that are annexed. That's right out of the legislation. So we have increased our spending on legal fees to ensure that our bylaws are compliant. And we'll be spending more money too on getting public feedback on some of our bylaws as well.
Thank you, John. And my understanding too is that through our pillar of organizational capacity, a full bylaw review was something that we were going to do in 2022, but with local governance reform, we held off to 2023 because of the new portion of the LSD that would be coming in. And even if we weren't aware that we would have to repass all of these bylaws, we would want the input of the new area on the bylaws coming in. So that's a second philosophical reason why we would do it.
It's a good idea to do this. Now it's a necessity.
So 10A, respecting the code of conduct for members of the town council. That the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield adopt by summary and title in the 1st and 2nd readings of the respecting code of conduct for members of town council number GG001. First reading by summary. bylaw number GG-001. Town of Grand Bay-Westfield bylaw respecting the code of conduct for members of the town council. The purpose and intent of the council code of conduct is to establish standards of conduct for members of council in the individual conduct of their official duties. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. Do you have any questions or comments on the motion? Joe?
Your worship, the most significant change that I've incorporated into this particular bylaw was to fill in a gap from the previous bylaw. We didn't have a means for residents to file a complaint before, or even for another councillor to file a complaint. So that's been included. And the complaint process is either the resident or another councillor files a complaint with me. In consultation with the town solicitor, we'll do an investigation. We'll report our findings to council. Council can decide then what they want to do. Typically what ends up happening, in my experience personally, is they ask the CAO, well, what's an appropriate sanction? So I put language in there that council can refer it to the CAO who has to do this, because it does place the CAO in a difficult situation. And then working with the town council, we can identify an appropriate sanction. And then also the CAOs may be held responsible to enforce it, should council deem it so. So that's a significant enhancement to the bylaw, Your Worship.
Thank you, and it's my understanding too that if the person that has put in the code of conduct is not satisfied with that result, that they can refer their complaint to the New Brunswick Ombudsman.
That's right. And the way it stands now, there isn't that intermediate step. I want to file a complaint with the CAO. Now it's you go to the Ombudsman's office. And I think we should have that intermediate step in there.
Thank you, Joe. Do you have any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Second reading by title. Bylaw number GG-001. Town of Grand Bay-Westfield bylaw respecting the code of conduct for members of the town council. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Balcom. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Bowmans. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you. Item 10B, respecting council procedures and organization. That the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield adopt by summary and title in the first and second readings of the council procedural bylaw number GG-002. First reading by summary. The council procedures and organization bylaw, a bylaw regarding how council shall manage its meetings and organize its business to accomplish its goals. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor Bowmans. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Any questions or comments on the motion? No, it's my understanding there's not a substantive change to this particular bylaw, is there, John?
No, if the former council recalls, we did a lot of change in 2021. And just for people who are watching, there's language in there about behavior as well for council. And I think we have, so no, there really isn't any significant change, Your Worship. I was considering moving the council package delivery date from Friday to Thursday, because sometimes it's a heavier package. But I thought I'd bring it up verbally if you want that change. If council wants an extra day to do it, that would make it more hectic for us to get it done, but we could do it. But the option is there. Other than that, no, we spent a lot of time on it, call it a year and a half ago.
Thank you, John. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you. Second reading by title. bylaw number GG-002. Town of Grand Bay-Westfield bylaw respecting council procedures and organization. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Balcom. I'll meet you next time, Mary. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you. Item 10C. Respecting the remuneration of the mayor and council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield. That the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield adopt by summary and title in the first and second readings of the respecting the remuneration of the mayor and council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield bylaw number GG-003. First reading by summary. Bylaw number GG-003 regarding the compensation of the mayor and council, town of Grand Bay-Westfield bylaw respecting the remuneration of the mayor and council. Do I have a motion? Deputy Mayor Toole, do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Burpee. John, can you outline the main changes in this bylaw?
There's only one change, Your Worship. Previously, I think it was around 2015, third party prepared a report on council remuneration, including a comparison around the province. I phoned the previous mayor to try and get a hold of this report. We have not found it anywhere, Your Worship. So I went based on past practice. However, what we did do is that council remuneration may be highly political and highly divisive. And so I included a clause in there, a section I should say, in which in the year preceding the election of council, that council allocate money for a compensation review, not just of council but of employees as well, for two purposes. One, to ensure that we're comparable to the market, even though many people believe that being on council is a volunteer position, you're doing it for the good of your community. It is time consuming, emotionally it can consume people. There's an incredibly steep learning curve, and fair compensation is, I think, a necessity. You also want to attract good people to be able to do it. And then finally, what's fair internally? That councillors, are they being paid in the right proportion to the deputy mayor, to the mayor? And then the same concept goes with staff. So that's the only change, Your Worship. I know in other communities what they may do is find a volunteer committee of successful businessmen or retired principals and pastors and things like that. Say, hey, what should we be paying our council and mayor? And then they will come to the CAO and say, help, how do we do this? And then I said, well, you know what, we can do a compensation review. So, and then the committee would make the recommendation. I guess I'm just cutting out the middleman, Your Worship. I'm suggesting we'll just go to the third party to do a review. And then the council would pass it for the next council, not for their council. I think it looks bad on council to vote themselves pay increases.
Thank you, John. Any questions or comments on the motion?
Oh, sorry, the other change, Your Worship, the CFO recommended it. The changes now will go into effect along with other staff members at 1/1 of each year. And the previous, what we've been following is council remuneration increases with CPI, and we'll just do it all at the same time. It's September, isn't it, for budget purposes? So the CPI figure we'll be using will be September's. So the change takes effect 1/1, and then from CPI in September. This year we had to get creative to figure out what to do with salaries because we didn't budget for a 5-month increase. So I've forgotten how we decided to deal with this year, but we can answer that question at another time. Okay.
Thank you, John. Any questions?
Just one question, Your Worship, for the third party that would be doing this, would this follow the town's protocol of putting out requests for tenders or requests for interest?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
And there's lots of firms around that do
Yeah, there
that.
are lots. So what happened last time where we didn't go to an RFP for the staff compensation review is because we partnered with another municipality that had already initiated the process.
Yes.
And the council, I would like to do the same thing again next time, is partner with that municipality. And even there's another municipality that I think that we can get on board. And so we have 3 municipalities, we send out the same questions once, and a lot more versatile for the type of answers we're gonna get too. So we can get a better comparison with what we're doing or not doing. So next time, Councillor, I would say yes, we do an RFP. However, I would prefer to strike a partnership with some of my colleagues and do it. And we had a very affordable price last time
Because
compared
of
to if
this
we
way.
did it on our own,
Yes.
if that's all right.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you, council. Second reading by title. Bylaw number GG-003, Town of Grand Bay-Westfield bylaw, respecting remuneration of the mayor and council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor Belmans. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Burpee. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you, council. Item 10D, respecting the chief administrative officer bylaw. The motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield adopt by summary and title in the first and second readings of the chief administrative officer bylaw number GG-004. First reading by summary. Being a bylaw of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield to establish the position of chief administrative officer, to establish and define the powers and duties of the chief administrative officer, and to delegate powers, duties, and functions to the chief administrative officer. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Balcom. John, you speak to, I feel like we passed this bylaw a number of times now.
It just feels like it. Yeah, no, we did this last June or July. Because functionally, I really had no role in the town. Well, functionally I do, legally I didn't. But anyways, so yeah, so we're just bringing it back again. And it's one of those things that administratively gets overlooked is, you know, what does the CAO do?
Thank you.
In essence, I guess it's my job description.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you. Second reading by title. Bylaw number GG-004, Town of Grand Bay-Westfield bylaw respecting chief administrative officer. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Belmans. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you. Item 10E, respecting the emergency management bylaw. That the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield adopt by summary and title in its first and second readings of the respecting emergency management bylaw number PS-001. First reading by summary. The purpose of this bylaw establishes that the town of Grand Bay-Westfield Emergency Management Organization complies with the Emergency Management Act of the Province of New Brunswick. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole. Do I have a second? Councillor Burpee, thank you very much. John?
One, mainly the language here is being changed. You know, it's no longer really emergency measures, it's emergency management. And I've noticed that we have to make some edits here. But anyways, in 5.2 or 5.2, council shall form a committee Basically, that committee is council of the whole. And so any updates to the emergency plan come to council through that. If council so chooses, we can form a separate committee, but I do think that council is well informed during our committee of the whole meetings. But we are open if you want a separate committee, your worship. And then I think I'd like to just bring to the chief's attention before I forget, 7 refers to a previous designation for the minister responsible.
Thank you, John. Do we have any questions or comments on the motion?
I just have a comment of just about the dates, it's just being nitpicky, it says they're being signed in May, I'm assuming will change.
So if I just bring to council's attention, you have 2 copies of the bylaw. But here, last week was really busy here, so we haven't made all the formatting changes. That will be changed. We want to bring this to council January 23rd.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? There being none, all in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you. Second reading by title. Bylaw number PS-001, Town of Grand Bay-Westfield bylaw respecting emergency management. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor Bailmans. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Malcolm. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is.
Sorry, your worship.
Yes.
My recollection, and the chief will have to speak to this potentially, is I think we took out the section regarding monthly activity reporting. Up until December of 21, we used to provide council with a number of hours of training, how many incidents were responded to. It's an awkward report that neither the chief nor I like, and we thought that we would try for a year just reporting on the strategic accomplishments that we've made. I was just wondering, would council prefer to have a section in here that says there'll be monthly reports on activity and training and stuff like that? These are things that are done. We respond to all calls. We just were reporting on the strategic accomplishments that administration has accomplished, including the fire department. So would council like us to reincorporate that in there?
Does it need to be in the bylaw, John? Can it be a policy?
Yeah, we can just ask.
Well, we're in the bylaw now.
Okay.
That's why, we can change it between now and next time. I'd rather not write a policy right now, or should call me lazy.
Alright, well, I guess from my perspective, I like that type of reporting because one of our roles as council is to relay information to residents. We get a lot of questions about that kind of thing. So if we can be part of, the communications tool and people say, what's going on, and we can also, it also gives us more tools to be a positive and good advocate for the fire department. We all know that it's an excellent fire department, but it's always, I always say more information the better.
Chief, can you reinsert that clause? Your worship, did you want to be specific as to the information you received, or would you like us to try a couple of different report presentations about the information that we think may be relevant to present?
I think I'll leave that to the experts. So now we're moving on to item 10F, respecting the Grand Bay-Westfield Volunteer Fire Rescue Department, that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield adopt by summary and title in the first and second readings of the respecting the Grand Bay-Westfield Volunteer Fire Rescue Department number PS-002, first reading by summary, a bylaw establishing a fire rescue department in accordance with the Fire Prevention Act and to establish fire and life safety regulations within the municipality. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole, is that you? Yeah. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. John, you outline the main changes, if any?
No, I got confused. The reporting should be under the volunteer fire department, not the, I thought we were on that. My apologies. No wonder I was confused, I was confused. Here, no, I'll ask the chief to speak to it. Recently, TSI have done a review of the department, including working on a strat plan, and I'll let the chief speak to their comments about our bylaw.
So for the most part, there was really no specific issues with the bylaw. It was kind of, I guess I described it as some housekeeping type of thing where we had some things that we were defining things as we were putting the regulation in. So for example, a personal outdoor fireplace, we were putting the definition of what a personal outdoor fireplace was within the actual kind of regulation section. So their recommendation was to pull that, move it up into the definitions, and then in the regulation section just simply state when they can and cannot be used. So there's a few things related to that, and similarly the role of the fire prevention officer, to move, that was also moved into the definition. So basically just 3 or 4 things removed from the body of the bylaw into definitions where they would be more appropriate.
Thank you, Chief. Do we have any questions or comments? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you. Second reading by title, bylaw number PS-002. Town of Grand Bay-Westfield bylaw respecting the Grand Bay-Westfield Volunteer Fire Rescue Department. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor Burpee. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Balcom. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you. That's a lot of bylaws in one sitting. And I really wanna thank staff, number one, for doing all the work on the bylaws. And I just wanna highlight the new organizational structure that the CAO and the leadership team have come up with. So if you know, when I was reading them, what they worked as bylaw number 121 or bylaw number 7, it was number PS-002. So those initials refer to like public safety. GG was general government. So they're organized by subject and then by number. So it's much more logical, and it'll be easier for internally, and it'll be easier for the public to sort of decipher the organization of the bylaw. So I really want to thank you for the excellent work on that. So really, very good. And thank you to council for reading them all. It was a heavy kit this week, so thank you. Yes.
Let me just make one quick comment on the councillor that's in, it's my pillar is organizational capacity with bylaws. I just wanted to encourage everybody watching. There's going to be a lot, as the CAO said, coming up as time goes on, a lot that you'll find of interest, some new ones, some amended ones. So I just really want people to kind of pay attention to the website and pay attention to the notices, because it'll be a lot of interest for the community.
I just want to say, Your Worship, one of the things that we've done differently tonight is usually, you may read the whole thing. I don't think you want to read 6 bylaws, one of which is 20+ pages long. So what we've decided to do is we'll do a summary reading. So generally we try to take out the purpose statement or the intent of the bylaw. And that was the first reading. The second one, everybody's familiar with reading by title. And then we'll, our communications manager has been putting notices up, and we need to do that for 14 days. So we're meeting all the legislative requirements. Excuse me. So we'll be doing that going forward. But there are some, I'm going to say less controversial bylaws. I think recently we passed ride sharing. That can be done in one evening. We're looking at an ATV trail, allowing them on streets. We should probably do that over 2 meetings, for an example. But there are, I just ask people to keep an eye on it. There's, as the deputy mayor said, it's going to be fast and furious. Next week, there's going to be at least 8 bylaws on the agenda. 6 with the third reading, and 2 with one with 3 readings, and one, we'll have to wait and see how many readings.
Thank you, John. And thank you, Deputy Mayor, that was a good point. That, like, being involved in bylaws is one of the most elemental ways that you can be involved in your community, because they're the bylaws are the backbone of how a community is structured, so it is very important. And one of the other backbones is how the work gets done and what the goals are for the coming year. So that moves us on to item 11, new business recommendations, and 11A is mandate letters. John, can you speak to this for us, please?
Yeah, so, so the way, as CAO, the way I operate isn't common. We're very much here focused on the strategic plan. Council, members of council and members of the community ran to be on council, and they want to accomplish certain objectives. You know, how can we accomplish 7 different people's objectives on council? And so we agreed on the strategic plan. And then council's primary role is oversight, governance oversight. And I've developed a wheel here in the report in which the mandate letters, after we get through the tactical plan, the budget, the work plans, it's the mandate letter. This is council's input in, you know, is the CAO getting the work done or having the work done? So this is about the extent of insight into what's happening from an HR perspective. It's very measurable and trackable, and it provides transparency to the members of the community that may want to know, well, what is the communications manager doing? What is the chief finance officer doing? So it provides a level of transparency that may not be seen in other jurisdictions. And the mandate letter, Your Worship, is divided into 2 parts. The first part is for all departments, and basically it's around culture. You know, the first part of the mandate is you will work to achieve the priorities established by Mayor and Council. You know, you're my boss, I'm their boss, it flows down. How do we get done what Council wants done? And then how do we incorporate the recommendations into the strategic plan, review the strategic plan, and incorporate the recommendations into short and long-term plans. So when they look at their work plan, how am I fulfilling the strategic plan? And then it goes down, you know, including be adaptable to changing circumstances, which I have to say, over the last year and a half, I think we've become masters at the fine art of pivoting, Your Worship and Council. You know, a culture thing, spend time with your staff, know your staff even in remote locations. Develop a culture of safety, be fiscally responsible, work to reduce expenditures without negatively impacting the town's facilities or services, and be a role model for staff. So the first part of the mandate is very general, and then the second part is specific to how are we accomplishing Council's priorities in that particular department.
Thank you, John. We have a number of mandate letters here, and I'd like to invite each member of the leadership team to talk about their mandate letters, so that the people that are watching, as well as council, get a fuller understanding of the objectives and the challenges that each member of the leadership team will be facing in their role in the coming years. And I think the first one on my list is communications. So that would be our communications officer, Brock Belly.
So for 2023, some of the highlights for me would include ensuring council's goal of transparency with residents, council, and us as staff, with news releases, social media, and website content, supporting the communications efforts of each department, assisting in the development of items such as the annual report, SOPs, presentations, and a consistent review of the town's brand and website. Those are highlighted for 2023.
And that's a fair amount on the list. And and I know that you're already in the midst of working on the website, so
Yes.
looking forward.
Stay tuned, coming soon.
Yeah, thank you.
Another one would be the review and the consolidation of the town's social media accounts as well, because we do have the principal ones of Facebook and Twitter for the town, but there's also independent ones like the recreation page, Frontage Point River Center, so a review of those is necessary.
Thank you, Barb. Anybody have any questions for Rob before I move on? Then our next one would be David Taylor with our development department.
From the mandate letter, I've got a work plan, basically, some main major goals. Basically, a lot of the changes of the, how do you get your building permit has changed for the entire community. We've adopted the Building Code Administration Act, so there's a learning realm to get out there, so we are redoing the building permits, the PAC packages and subdivision packages for guides and forms to be updated to the processes. We're going to review the incentive grant program, which we've got a few that will be starting with payouts this year, and started in December, so I don't know how it's gonna play out, but that will be coming shortly to council for some options. In our climate change action plan, we've been looking at where we stand on that, and we'll be making an application for milestone 4 and 5 in the Partners of Climate Protection for the community, and looking at meeting the federal objectives of the 30 by 30 protected areas proposal. And we've talked about bylaws. The main ones are municipal planning and zoning bylaw are big heavy lifters that will take probably to June. But there are some others, the traffic bylaw, noise bylaw, we had input from the RCMP just before Christmas, and the subdivision bylaw, those would be on my earlier submissions for bylaws.
Thank you, David, and we have to take a look at the municipal plan bylaw, et cetera, as a result of local governance reform, because now we have to make sure that we include the new portion of the town as well in that, so.
So Dylan Consulting has begun that process last fall for a lot of prep work, leading up to the public meetings that we can hold them in. Those are also given other opportunities for hearings with council and PAC will make our forward as a bylaw.
And for Councillor Burpie's benefit, anybody watching from the new portion in Nericus, there's a heavy consultation with the community component to amending the municipal bylaw. So via PAC, via community consultations and other methods. I believe last time we used some online tools as well. So residents will have the opportunity to be fully engaged in the process. So we have a busy year, David. Anybody have any questions for David on the mandate letter? Then we will move on to the finance department. James Barrington.
Thank you. So for 2023, the finance department, we're going to be working to identify any operational areas that we can make improvements and gain efficiencies from. We're going to be working on developing a 3-year operational budget, which will be the first time that the town has had such a budget. If you remember from the budget last year, we did a 5-year budget for the sewage utility, so the operational budget is a much bigger beast, and so we're going to tackle 3 years to start with. We're going to be transitioning the town to a greater use of EFT payments. Electronic payments are the way of the future, so we're going to be making our way into utilising those more. And the last thing is reviewing the current development incentives that the town has and making a recommendation back to council on their relevance.
Thank you, James. Anybody have any questions for James on his mandate letter? I know that it was a lot of work to do the 5-year for the sewage utility. And I'm very excited to have the visibility into the future that, 3 and eventually a 5-year forecast will give the town and its residents in terms of where we're going, as opposed to just going year by year. It's important to have that for future resiliency. So I'm very excited about that. And I would argue that EFTs are the way of the future, the way of the present.
That's what I was thinking, exactly.
So I know it's like everything else, it's always more complicated than you think it is. So I know it's, you've got a job ahead of you on that one, but I'm excited to see these changes come for 2023. Thanks, James.
Sorry, just wondering, Your Worship, if CFO wants to speak to the next step in transitioning GFTs in the very near future that he's getting ready for.
In the coming month, the invoices for the sewage utility will be going to residents, and we're excited to announce that we will offer email payments. So residents can use their internet banking and send the payment to an email address, sewer@towngpw.ca, and that will flow into our bank account. And it should make it much easier for residents to make payments.
Oh, that's great. That's really great news. Congratulations on that good work. Does anybody have any other questions or comments for James? And we will move on to the fire department.
Thank you, Your Worship. So some of the kind of continuing things that we do every year, ensure competence fire department through ongoing professional development, which essentially is training, which we take very seriously, and we put a lot of our resources into training, whether it's just regular weekly training or professional development for the full-time staff. Continuous review of our standard operating procedures. The recent fire service review that we had done is going to play a very large role in that. And we'll basically now, much like the town is going through all of its bylaws and kind of going from cover to cover, we're looking forward to doing the same with our fire department policies and procedures. Continuously assess risk conditions in Bay-Westfield and the relevant area of the local service district, which we provide service to under contract, and understand risk areas. This is something that we're always doing, and be able to give recommend actions to effectively respond and mitigate through policies and bylaws. We will continue to do that. One thing that we always strive to do as best we can, because fire service, like many occupations, it can be pretty easy to become stagnant in what you're doing and just kind of go with the flow of what's happening. So identifying operational areas that can be improved is kind of critical to our growth. And in order, like everything, in order to survive, you have to grow. And the big piece this year will be the fire service review, which will be presented to council, public session of our February meeting. And so we'll be looking forward to completing the strategic plan portion of that for the fire service and implementing the recommendations that come from it.
Thank you, Chief. Anybody have any questions for the Chief? I have a question, just because people might not be familiar with it. I've noticed in the mandate letters, and I'm asking you because you're more you're quite technically minded. It says, become familiar with the local government framework software, ensuring its integration into your workflow. Can you just explain for everybody what that might be?
Sure. So local government frameworks, and another in-house term for it is Cascade, and I forget. One is kind of the new name, and one is the old name. So it's basically a software program that's available to the town, and it's great with strategic plan. It's great with any plans, and it's a tracking software for everything that's ongoing. And the long-term goal will be to have a portal that people can go in and say, hey, this project was announced at council a year ago. I'd like to see where, because some projects are a multi-year project, they'd like to see where it's at. They'll be able to go in and see the status of that project. So this is part of all departments' mandate letters it's pretty robust software. there's monthly training that goes on, for, I believe it's 2 years?
I think a year and a half.
A year and a half, something like that, yeah, so we're all continuing with that, and that's the question for us, too, is making sure we're really familiar with that software and take full advantage of it.
Thank you, Chief.
So,
John?
Your Worship, council receives what we call the cascade report on a quarterly basis.
Yes, I love the cascade.
I haven't heard anybody say they don't like it, Your Worship.
So now we have Parks and Recreation.
Thank you, Your Worship. Couple highlights from 2023 on the days. We're looking at going into year 2 of the 10-year plan for the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. We'll be identifying operation areas that could be improved. We'll be revising some terms of reference for different committees and partners that we work with. We'll be looking at the heard reference to the off-road vehicle bylaw. There's been some work done on that will be coming forward. We'll be establishing some review of the intergenerational programming, which can include special events, physical and creative activities. We'll be supporting the promotion of our community groups and partners that do programming in the community. And we'll be conducting some more community engagement to determine shifting needs and preferences of our residents.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for Gary on the Parks and Rec mandate for 2023? It's a very robust mandate, I guess in conjunction with the Parks and Rec master plan. It's like everything else, it's exciting to see everything on the list that's gonna be moving forward in the year to come, so thank you. And then we have Works. Bruce?
Yes, this is a large load year. It's going to be a great and exciting year, because again, everybody's mentioned with SOPs is that the Works Department will be taking over snow control services in November of 2023, which is a completely new operation, complete new equipment to us. So it'll be a new snow and ice plan, new routing. The employees, the men need to learn these routes. And with all that, we need our SOPs to go along with the vehicle maintenance. When do we go out and plow salt and all that? So there's a lot of that is going on. There's a couple new hires that we're looking to bring on this year. And again, bringing on this year, the new hires early spring, is the Works Department is also sort of taking over parks maintenance. So we'll be having SOPs and now that was previously done by contractors, but the Works Department is going to take that over now. So that'll be a new operation, new sites and new equipment to look after that. So that, and again, SOPs to go along with that operation. And with that, and again with these new parks and works and snow, because sometimes people call, we're going to be working on our communications with Brock over there, so he's going to really help the department to communicate with the residents as to how the operation goes. And I guess it's probably assumed that snow removal is expensive. So we're going to be working with James and the CFO part to try and keep the budget and the dollar figures in control over 3 years. And again, also on the plan is when we have our equipment, is start building out a fleet replacement schedule to buy these large pieces of plow equipment down the road. So that's where this 5-year plan or 3-year budget plan can come in, because we need to replace those ongoing and they do cost a lot of money. So it's going to be a big year. It's good.
Yeah, thank you, Bruce, you're not kidding, it's gonna be a big year, and just I wanna highlight the improved communication, looking internally, because we're bringing this on and it's gonna be new, there's gonna be hiccups, so I think that's gonna be a key part, you know, for, in terms of managing expectations of residents, like there's gonna be mistakes, but, you know, we'll get better as we go along, and also for people to communicate with us, to let us know what's going on, what's going right, and what's going wrong, and how we can fix that. So, yeah, it's going to be an exciting yet challenging year for Works, and I'm looking forward to it. So, any questions for Bruce? And that's the final mandate letter for tonight. So the motion is that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield refer the mandate letters to be used as part of the CAO and leadership team's performance evaluations. Do I have a motion?
Moved.
Thank you, Councillor Bellmans. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried, and I want to thank the CAO and the leadership team for going through all those mandate letters with us. It helps us understand, it helps the residents understand what we're doing and how we're doing it to move the town forward. Now we have item 11B, council calendar. The motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield approve the proposed 2023 council meeting calendar. Do we have a motion? Thank you, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. Do I have a second? Councillor Balcom, thank you very much. John, could you speak to the motion, please?
Yes, Your Worship. The procedural bylaw, which we technically don't have right now, says that we have to meet the second and fourth Monday of the month. And then council can cancel or add meetings at their discretion. However, I think it's nice to be able to publicize, both for the public and council and leadership team, what's happening and when. So we've tried, each year we've been enhancing the calendar information. And so we've been highlighting typically what's going to be going on, excuse me, for council. We've included in here UMB, newly elected orientation, as well as when UMB is happening. I thought I had UMB an annual meeting here, but I must have, I missed it. I thought I had it. But
Wait, oh, you do have your meeting
It's in here somewhere.
on the second
November
page.
oh, second page, that's why. Okay, all right, I thought I had it. However, we have some, there's one meeting I'd like to bring to our viewers' attention, is that September 18th, we're anticipating holding a special meeting in which if you're a member of a community group that's requesting a large sum of money, specifically, I'm thinking of two groups, Your Worship, the River Valley Community Center and the Westfield and District Recreation Association, that they provide a verbal request to council along with their submission to help us understand what their needs are and help us understand who their organization is and what they do. And then if there's any other comments or requests, that would be the time for there to be more direct community engagement in the budget process. So that's new for the community to have. We've had huge public presentations. We've invited people to comment, and now we have an opportunity for our members of the public to stand in front of council. So that we anticipate that meeting being an hour and a half, and people being given limits of about 5 minutes. But for our partners, specifically RVCC and Westfield and District Recreation Association, perhaps allocating 10 minutes each to that, Your Worship. So anyway, so this will be posted on our website, and members of the community want to know, hey, what's going on at a particular meeting? Hopefully we'll have information here that they'll be able to say, oh, okay, they're getting a Cascade report. What's that? Maybe I should watch. Okay.
Thank you, John. Yeah, I mean, this council calendar and the information that is highlighted beside every meeting is just another example of our commitment to transparency and communication. So that it's not just a list of just random dates. It's telling the members of the community the kind of business that we're going to be doing and which meetings are important for them to be watching. So it hits organizational capacity in a number of different ways. So it's, I really like this approach. Do you have any questions or comments on the motion? No. There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you, council. Item 11D, Aquila Tours. The motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield support a pilot project to bring cruise ship photography to Greenwich Point in 2023. And John, can you speak to the motion, please?
I'll provide a brief overview, and then I'll turn it over to our recreation program coordinator who carried the load on this. Excuse me. The town was approached by Aquila Tours about using the space at Brundage Point River Center. And after going through what the requirements were, Rick was able to identify that it cost us up to about $3,000 in expenses that we haven't budgeted for. Now, having said that we haven't budgeted for them, they may be offset if there happens to be a rental during the period when the cruise ship group goes there. This would be a pilot project because frankly it's been very difficult for Rick and myself and others to identify what's a tangible return on the investment. They're going there to take photographs of foliage in the river. The general eatery, the general store, country store eatery is across the road, but cruise ships typically have prepaid meals. We're not sure how much access they would make of the eatery, their food, or even some of the novelty items that they sell there. And even the intangible, they're in a bus to come through, they'll say hi. It does raise our profile a little bit. We don't understand if there's intrinsic value by seeing all the tour buses here. Have I missed anything, Rick?
No, you captured it.
Okay. So it's a pilot project. We just don't understand the return on the investment for taxpayers on that, even though it's just a nominal amount of $3,000, but we'll give it a shot.
Thank you, Joe. Any questions or comments on the motion? Do we have an idea of how many of the visits might happen during the farmers market times? That might increase.
Yeah, like there are ships scheduled on Thursdays. You know, we've got, you know, one Thursday we're gonna have, the same one Thursday, and we're gonna have almost 8,000 people on the ships. How many actually come for a photography excursion? Maybe it's a bus with 50 people, we don't know. And that's one of the other challenges that we have is parking's at a premium. It's the ferry access point, and then we're gonna get these big buses in there as well. So we need to see how things work out. We're also hoping to have at least one food truck at the farmers market as well. So again, I think, Rick, it's fair to say we have more questions than answers at this point, hence pilot project.
Yes, that's right.
Any questions or comments?
Just a comment, Your Worship. I don't know where St. John would be had we not done a pilot project with the first cruise ship that chose the city of St. John safe harbor to divert from a hurricane. And they were so well received that they came back the next year, and look where it's developing an industry for us. So I'm a strong believer in pilot projects. I don't think we've had very many opportunities for cruise ship passengers to come out to our town. And some may want to come here and relocate and live.
I just want to say, Westfield Golf and Country Club was part of the cruise ship industry for a bit, and they ended up withdrawing from that. So, Rick, is there anything you wanted to add to your work?
No, I do think you've captured it, John, that it's intrinsic value that you're trying to see here is being a part of the greater community in St. John and what that tourism piece means. So supporting the regional business. There are some local ties with this business, but they are located in the city of St. John.
And I guess that's part of the issue, Your Worship. Economic development, it's not specific to a particular place, it's more specific to a region. And really what we're doing is adding value to the cruise ship industry as a whole by providing them opportunities for a different type of activity. You know, the spend here would be less, but that doesn't mean that the region as a whole wouldn't benefit by the fact that we are actually a part of the options that cruise ships have to offer their guests.
Thank you, John.
How long will you be in town for the cruise ship bus? How long will you in town for? An hour, 2 hours?
No, well, in town here,
Here in town, yeah. How long? Be on our
I think it's a Rick question.
Yeah, and speaking to one of the owners of the business, they would be at Rutledge Point for around 45 minutes to an hour for that specific purpose. So it's very, they go to 3 spots one in Grand Bay-Westfield, and then there's 2 other in the greater St. John region in their sort of 4-hour tour. So there's travel built in there, but they spend approximately an hour at each place, 45 minutes to an hour. And even now, she can't be 100% sure how long they'll be here because she's never driven a tour bus out here. So they gotta see how it fits. They're gonna do testing on moving the buses around and what it would take. But it's an accessible location as well because of the highway access, because they go out in the direction of Blacks Harbor for one of them, so they're coming back on the highways, so it is accessible, but 45 minutes to an hour, but there's still some uncertainty on how it will work.
Thank you. Amanda, did I get a motion or a second? I didn't think so. Okay, do I have a motion on the item? Councillor McIntosh Lawrence, do I have a second? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Tour. Any further questions or comments on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you, Council. Item 11E, appointment of Chair of Infrastructure, Carrie Burpee. The motion is that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield appoint Carrie Burpee as the Chair of Infrastructure. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Balcom. And John, you want to speak to the motion a little?
No, I've been meeting with Councillor-elect Burpee for about a month leading up to Christmas, and there are some significant infrastructure issues over in Ward 2, specifically Sand Rock with the water and wastewater distribution systems. Councillor Burpee's been incredibly helpful in identifying the issues there, and then not to mention the ongoing issue of flooding around the Britton Road Bridge. But no, looking forward to working with her. I don't know if she has any comments about it either.
Councillor Burpee?
I'm actually looking forward to this part of it because it has been a problem in our area for so long. So I'm hoping to make some progress there, and I think it would be pretty rewarding work should we make some, significant headway in something. So I'm looking forward to it.
So, Worship, since Councillor Burpee brought the situation to my attention, I've been in contact with the Deputy Minister, I've been in contact with the Director of Environment who's responsible for this, and I'm waiting for for a response to my most recent correspondence. But I think I've been communicating with Environment since November. I'm going to guess November, I don't recall the exact date anymore. So hopefully we'll be able to make progress for residents over there who doesn't sound like a very good situation whatsoever. Doesn't look like one either.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Congratulations, Councillor Burpee.
Thank you.
Item 11F, appointment of Community Vitality Committee Vice Chair, Aaron Toole. The motion is that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield appoint Aaron Toole as Vice Chair of the Community Vitality Committee. Do I have a motion?
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Burpee. And I'll ask the Chair of the Community Vitality Committee to speak to this motion.
Yes, thank you. Welcome, Erin. That's exciting. We've got a lot of work to do, and our first meeting this year is tomorrow night, so get your feet wet.
All right, any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you. Congratulations, Deputy Mayor Toole. Item 11G, Age-Friendly Committee. The motion is that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield approve the Age-Friendly Committee terms of reference as presented. Well, actually, you know what, before I go into all these motions, maybe John, either you or Rick can speak to the three of them in concert.
Yeah, well, first I just want to thank Rick for taking on this load. I've been pretty sick in the spring, and I had to cancel 3 meetings with this group, I think, which I'm sure they weren't pleased with at all. So Rick came in and took over, and very grateful. I got nothing but kind words for everybody involved in working with Rick. And then he basically carried the plot from there, so I'm gonna turn it over to him. This has been his baby.
Thanks, Ron. As you see in the report, the committee worked diligently through the summer. We held two 3-hour meetings that were specific to the plan development, and then went through sort of minor edits through 4 other regular committee meetings to get to the point of submitting the plan to the province. We used the province's standards to try and regain our status as an age-friendly community. The reason I say regain is that because of COVID, the majority of age-friendly activities had come to a complete halt. And so the province said that rather than a full reapplication, we could just regain the status if our action plan was updated appropriately. So it has been confirmed that we do meet the standards, but we don't want to go public if we don't have council's support specifically for the plan. The other piece that you'll see in your motions is around the terms of references, and this is a piece that John worked with the chair of the Age-Friendly Committee on prior to my arrival. And the most important piece, and even though there's only a couple minor amendments in there, is around the committee's involvement in the spending of any grants they secure. It's a very important point for them that if they're going to take on the grant writing, if they're going to take on that responsibility, even though the finances would go through town accounts, that any spend within those grants would be approved by both the committee and the town, not one or not the other. So that wording is updated in the terms of reference as well, and is a very important piece for the committee members that sit there today.
Thank you, Rick. I read the plan, and a lot of work clearly went into this plan, and it's very ambitious. I'm looking forward to seeing them move those actions forward to becoming outcomes. And I certainly support the ask from the committee about the finances, that it's frustrating to get a grant and not see it, or not have any control over its fruition. So we'll go through each one of these motions one at a time. G1, that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield approve the Age-Friendly Committee Terms of Reference as presented. We have a motion. Thank you, Councillor Mailman. We have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Balcom. Does anybody have any questions about the terms of reference specifically?
Okay. Just have a general question. How many members are currently on the
Rick, do you know?
Sorry,
How many members are on the committee presently?
currently we have 4 active members, certainly willing to accept more if Rob recently put out a call for members, but we know that it's going to be word of mouth to generate volunteers for this committee, but hopefully publication of the status and demonstration that work has been done, because it's been obviously quiet work in the background, difficult for people to understand the committee has restarted its work, so hopefully we'll see some more interest now that we're getting more public.
Thank you. Any other questions on the terms of reference? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you. Item 11G2, that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield approve the Age-Friendly Committee Action Plan for 2023 to 2025 as presented. Do I have a motion? Deputy Mayor Tour, thank you. Do I have a second? Councillor McIntosh Lawrence, thank you. Do we have any questions or comments on the Age-Friendly Committee Action Plan specifically? I just want to take a second for anyone that's going through there to talk about the pillars the volunteers here and Rick as well have put a ton of work into this, so I just wanted to go into the action plan a little bit. One pillar is housing, and there's objectives surrounding each one of these pillars, such as reviewing current policies for the development of housing models, etc. Surveying seniors' needs around in-home modification and future development needs to remain in the community. So all of these are very well thought out pillars, and they, like I said, they have very aspirational goals and outcomes that they'd like to see. but they're all very relevant. The second pillar is social participation, you know, with a hopeful expected outcome of, you know, increased activity options for seniors among others. Respect and social inclusion. And there's expected outcomes surrounding multi-generational events in the community, and that aligns with our Parks and Rec master plan. Civic participation and employment. You know, and just because you're a senior doesn't mean that that there's no value in you being employed or a business that you might own. Yes.
I was just going to say, Worship, in the latest labor market statistics, the 55 and over increase in employment was significant.
You know, and they make a point of saying here that Grand Bay-Westfield is a healthy retirement community with knowledgeable post-retirement residents. So it's, you know, it's a gold mine of knowledge here. Communication and information. It's always good to have more informed seniors, and it ends up being more attendance and participation. Community support and health services. And I think the last one is grants and finances. So, and they want to secure additional funding to grow the program, grow the committee, and grow the offerings that are available to seniors. So I want to congratulate the committee on all the hard work that they have done. Any other questions or comments on the action plan, on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you, Council. Item 11G3, that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield approve the age-friendly certificate of recognition for the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield for publication. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, and again, I'd like to offer congratulations to the Age Friendly Committee and all the supporting staff that brought this to fruition. You know, it was a lot of work to get to this point, so thank you for the work that you've done and the work you will continue to do. Item 12, bills for payment. The motion is that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield authorize the January 9th, 2023 bills for payment as presented in the amount for $496,624.53. We have a motion? There was nobody, then there was everybody. So who was first? It was Deputy Mayor Toole. Thank you. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. Any questions or comments on the motion?
Just a comment. So,
Yeah, no.
Your Worship, that's one of the largest bill payments that we've had, so I had to go through it a couple of times, but I see there's one very large item up there called Minister of Finance.
Yeah.
That's for our CP Police and Services, so. I do have a question for a bill payment, item number 69, Nightingale Tree Service Limited, $3,450 for cutting and disposing of trees. Specifically, I'm wondering if that is for the fine work that was done at the Veterans Peace Park to rehabilitate those trees that were getting older and dance, or if it was somewhere else.
I'll ask Councillor, we've already paid that bill. So no, this is for work that was actually been waiting for 2 years, I believe it was.
Yeah, some dangerous old rotten trees, liability of falling on our house.
So, yeah, and they got put aside, and then it was finally done.
So this may help reduce our potential insurance payments later on, keep our premiums lower.
Oh, let's be optimistic.
Yes. Thank you very much.
We have any other questions or comments on the motion? Councillor McIntosh Lawrence.
I have not really a question, sort of comment, or I guess it's a question. Where were the beavers?
So the chief will have to correct me, but I believe the beavers were interrupting our water flow at Westfield Crescent, wasn't it? Yeah. So that's where the beavers were.
Thank you.
It's just an odd thing to be on bills for payment.
Actually, it's not that often, it's usually at least once a year.
Really?
The first two times are odd.
Yeah, Councillor Bellman.
Number 55, a little city towing pickup trackless, what's that mean? Is it one way or that's two ways?
That's one way. What happened is that our trailer was too small to pick up the accessories and the trackless. We purchased the used trackless from the city of Fredericton.
Right.
Because our current trackless, we've spent a lot of money on maintenance. So we purchased the used one, and Loyalist Towing picked it up for us. That was one way from
You
Fredericton.
could have ridden my trailer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you, council. Item 13, consent agenda. 13A, Crane Mountain 2023 Community Grant Information. B, letter, land use agreement, Fisheries and Oceans Canada. C, King Centre Electoral District map. D, CAO appointment by the minister. E, UMNB new council orientation. F, ELG new council orientation. G, NB Legion letter. H, effects of economy on tax rates. End consent agenda. The motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield receive and file the consent agenda items for January 9th, 2023. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor Bellmans. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Burpee. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you. We'll move on to item 14, council reports, and we'll start with Councillor Bellmans.
Well, it's been pretty slow the last 2 months, I'm telling you, it's quiet, everything's quiet, so that's a good sign, people are quiet, and I call on you, and means they're doing something right then, that's all I say, so, that's all I have to say. Alright, thank you.
Councillor McIntosh Lawrence.
Yeah, it's been pretty quiet. The only thing that I've done, everyone else has done, we met on Saturday for a full day for council orientation, which was a good review. We did it last year when we came on board, and Councillor Burpee's new, so we did it again. So it was great to get together with everyone and have a little refresher.
Thank you. And Deputy Mayor Toole.
Same as the others, it's been slow, I guess it's the main thing with council orientation last weekend. Begrudgingly admit that it was a really well spent Saturday. So it was good to get together and refresh ourselves and welcome Councillor Burpee, so that was actually a really enjoyable session.
Thank you. Councillor Falcon.
Also, it's been very quiet over the holiday period, although I have been able to secure some firm appointment dates for some upcoming development meetings with some other parties. That's what all that was done. I'd like to report later on how those meetings go, but not too much has occurred in the last few months.
Thank you, Councillor. And Councillor Burke.
So, again, I'd like to thank everybody for welcoming me so graciously. I also had a great time at the orientation on Saturday. It was great to learn what all the departments actually do and how everything makes the wheel turn. Like, it's not just one thing, it's every section of the wheel, and so it was really interesting to see how it all goes together. And I'm excited to be here. So the only other thing that I just wanted to say was, excuse me, on this day, Steve Jobs unveiled the iPhone. So the iPhone is 16 years old today.
History.
And it changed our lives.
It did, that's for sure.
And that's all I have to report.
Okay. Well, thank you, Councillor Burke. We look forward to your next council report. And I often get a little roasted because sometimes I forget to give my council report, but I will give mine. It's been quiet. It's been nice over the holidays to sort of have a chance to. And when I say quiet, I mean from a municipal perspective. When you've got more kids, it's not quiet with Christmas at all, but it's just a different kind of busy. So from a municipal perspective, it was quiet. It was great to have an opportunity to recharge and and read a little bit and all of that kind of stuff. I think really over the holidays, the only really official engagement I had was I attended the Lieutenant Governor's levee at Government House in Fredericton on New Year's Day. And of course, the highlight because I love that stuff as much as some people might think it's a little odd, was our orientation day on Saturday. It was just nice to coalesce, because we are a new council, we're a new town, we're a new council, and just that opportunity to relearn the things that we've been learning all this time, because a lot of information goes in our brains, and not all of it stays there because it's constant. It's always coming at us, and we're always moving on to the next thing. Have that opportunity and work with the leadership team in a more informal setting, I think was really wonderful. So that pretty much is it's short and sweet tonight, but as always, I thank all of council for the good work you do for the residents. When we look at our org chart, the residents are at the top of it, and that's for a reason. We are here to serve the people that live in the town of Bay-Westfield, and I'm always grateful for the opportunity to do that. And that's my council report for tonight. We'll move on to item 15, business arising from committee of the whole. There being none, we'll move on to item 16, adjournment. And the motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield adjourn the meeting at 8:30 p.m. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? The motion is carried. Thank you, Councillor.